Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. 30 years ago, Howard Cosell told the nation the Bronx is burning. Today, Adolfo Carrion tells us the Bronx is booming. Whither the Bronx? To talk about the Bronx, its progress, its problems, its prospects, and his priorities is Adolfo Carrion, the two-term borough president of the Bronx. Welcome back, Adolfo. It's been a long time.
Doug, it's great to be here again with you.
Okay. I've got this press release here that says Bronx Boom continues. Over $500 million invested in the Bronx since January '07. Talk about this boom in the Bronx and what the cause of it is and how to sustain it and what the problems are.
You know, I'm glad you put it against the backdrop of 30 years ago. Literally, it was 1977, October. The Yankees were a winning team then and were in the World Series when Howard Cosell said those famous words that still ring around the world that we're still trying to shed. The reality is that the Bronx has come back in ways that nobody ever imagined. Any inner city community, especially the South Bronx. And let me be clear about this, Doug, because I think there is also a misconception here. There is an idea that the entire Bronx sort of crumbled.
Right.
The reality is, those of us who grew up there,
Or lived there,
or lived, at that time, as we were living in a beautiful residential neighborhood in the Northeast Bronx, know that there was no burning Bronx where we were. We did see in the news stories that there was burning Bronx in the South Bronx,
right,
and that there was disinvestment and that people were being forced out of their buildings, that landlords and slumlords were essentially, by extension, arsonists because they were torching their buildings,
right,
taking the insurance money and leaving town.
And when you drove along the Cross Bronx Expressway and there were all those broken windows, and then later you had those vinyl, things with the flower pots in the windows.
World famous, by the way, because I was just in Europe and people mentioned the placards or whatever those window covers were.
Right.
It was ironic, it was funny, it was tragic, but it was at the time the condition of urban America and inner city America. If you looked across the country at parts of Dallas, parts of Miami, parts of Chicago, parts of Detroit, parts of Baltimore, Philadelphia, on, and you go way out to the west. What happened in the Bronx was people rolled up their sleeves, got to work, especially in the South Bronx. It was really not driven by politicians or bankers. It was driven by churches and tenants and people who said, we have nowhere to go, let's clean this mess up and get started. There is in that story a group of activists and people who they organized something called the People's March. You know, Jose Rivera got his start there, where he organized the People's March.
And Jose Rivera is, explain?
The chairman of the Democratic Party and an assembly member in the Bronx. But they wanted to create a dramatic statement for the presidential candidates that were going to urban centers to say that urban America is broken. And they came to ground zero, which was the South Bronx. It really,
I remember Carter.
It really was broken, though. Doug, it was terrible. It was a scary place. You drive through those neighborhoods now, and they're buzzing with activity. The economy is strong. More people are working than ever before in the Bronx. When we started, we had almost a 12% unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is hovering about a point above the national average now, 5–6%, depending on the day of the week of the month. We've seen, in addition to, since January, $500 million in investment in construction, retail, housing, commercial. Over the 5 years that I've been borough president, 5.5 years, probably $4.5 billion worth of investment already. 30,000 units of housing, the Yankee Stadium construction that's already started, the mall.
Some of us aren't quite happy with it, but that's okay.
Is it because you're a Yankee fan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And not because you're against development.
No. We'll talk about development. You want to pick a fight? I'm a Yankee fan.
Okay.
I go back to '54, so that's sort of sacred ground. But
It
we'll
is.
get there later.
And the ground will continue to be sacred because what will happen is children will play on the ground that the greats had played, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But the Bronx is back in ways that people never imagined, and now it's booming. We've rezoned portions of the South Bronx to allow for mixed-use development. Businesses are coming and knocking on our door. We're leading the city in terms of green development, green roofs, building technologies in the residential buildings, let alone the commercial buildings. So we're seeing a resurgence of a part of the city that is so important to urban America because it's a symbol of who we are and what we are.
But you've still got problems. What do you see? You've got 900 plus days, and your successor is going to take office in January 1st, 2010. What are your biggest challenges confronting you as borough president, and what are the biggest challenges and opportunities that confront your successor?
I think now that we've moved the economy and the economic activity in the right direction, and we've created the partnerships to incorporate local businesses and the local workforce, and more businesses are coming, I think now that the Bronx is safer than it's ever been, and that we've built so much housing, we need to focus our attention on the most important responsibility that we have as Americans, is to ensure the education and wellness of our population. The schools, and we've built we created 100 new schools working with the Department of Education. Reshaped the high schools, opened up new schools. I'm a charter school convert, you know. I came kicking and screaming to the charter school movement, but I think it's the right move for the city.
What converted you?
I think what converted me was well-tested experiments that were showing results that we needed. I mean, these kids.
This is the urban planner.
Yeah, look, I'm pragmatic. I'm very unsentimental about the way I approach my job. Our responsibility is to create a society on all its platforms, town, village, hamlet, city, state, etc., that promotes opportunity and engagement on the civic side and on the economic side. And everything else is a distraction. And so right now what we have is, for the Bronx, we need to ensure that the next generation of Bronx kids are prepared, that they have the skills, the education to engage in our civic life and to compete in this free market. New York will, if with the right leadership, continue to be globally competitive. We'll keep the financial markets here, we'll keep them user-friendly, which is one of the reasons we have to go back to the Sarbanes-Oxley legislation and ask ourselves, have we over-regulated the financial markets? Are we going to lose them to London? Are we going to lose them to another place? We cannot afford that. New York will continue to be a cultural center if we support our cultural institutions. New York will continue to be a magnet, as it always has. However, it will fail if it doesn't educate its young people.
What about the mayor? I mean, we'll talk about. Let's get back to the charter schools, but the mayor's control of the schools. Do you see that as, and also his desire is that for more charter schools as part of that reform package? Are we moving in the right direction? What needs to be accelerated? What needs to be changed? An assessment. Since we're sort of at the end of the school year, a little report card here from a borough president on the school system.
Look, you know, I think that it's the right move was for the state legislature to say, yes, Mr. Mayor of the global city, you should be held accountable. You want control, we're going to give you control. I think we had a broken system in so many ways, and it's been demonstrated over and over that the system was broken. It needed to be fixed. Naturally, you come in as the chief executive of this town and say, well, here's the fix, and then everybody, as New Yorkers do, stands back and says, okay, let's see if you can really do it. Right. And as soon as there's a misstep, they jump all over you.
Right, and there have been several of those.
And there have been some missteps. I mean, the school bus scenario, fiasco was ridiculous, and a few others. But mayoral control is principally a good thing because it's a system of accountability that holds the chief executive of this city accountable for the education of children. That doesn't mean he's personally accountable. It means he's accountable as the captain of this ship. Can it be improved? Absolutely. More parental involvement. We need to extend the school day. Not just with classroom activities, but with other activities, sports, arts. We need to have more chess in every school. We need to have teams in every school. We need to have art activity. We need to have homework assistance. We need more technology.
I know we need it. Do we have the bucks to do it?
We have the bucks to do whatever we choose to do, and we know that. We know that. In the mid 80s, in the mid 1980s, when Ed Koch said, City Council and city leaders and my constituents, I'm carving out $5.2 billion to build housing in the city of New York, and I'm going to begin restoring Bed-Stuy, Harlem, the South Bronx, etc.
Cross Bronx Expressway. You've got real people living in those buildings now, and those flower pots are real, and it began with Ed Koch.
Absolutely. So the resources are there if the political will is there. Elliot Spitzer comes in and says, we're going to invest in education. Here's my priority, and my instrument to demonstrate my priorities is my executive power over the budget. And he presents a budget that is the largest education budget that we've ever seen.
So it's not for lack of resources that this experiment will, or these experiments will fail or succeed.
I think what the executive has to do, in this case, the mayor has to do, and I don't know if in the 900 plus days that he has left, he's got the capacity to do that, but certainly the next mayor, is to engage the parents of our city in a more meaningful discussion. I think that we have to engage the teachers' union in a more constructive relationship. There will always be tension between City Hall and labor. And naturally, anytime you have to negotiate how much you're going to give somebody, how much time, how much money, how much benefits, of course you're going to have a fight. But at the end of the day, to move this education system forward to ensure that failure is no longer acceptable. We cannot accept failure in this country and in this city.
Okay, let me do some quick hitters here, some stream of consciousness, if you will. New police academy. Boom to the Bronx.
Went to Brooklyn, to Queens. Police academy will be built in Queens.
I thought it was going to you guys.
No, it's going to Queens.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, it was announced about a month ago, month and a
Oh,
half ago.
man, I apologize. I
but
thought
no,
I went to the Bronx.
The breaking news.
Oh, God, please
The
tell me.
breaking news, Doug, is that Rodman's Neck, which is the firing range across from City Island by the Long Island Sound,
I've been there.
will finally be closed. And all the noise, and all the gunpowder, and the use of a huge portion of the park for target practice for police officers will be removed and put in Queens. What that gives us, though, is the opportunity to develop a beautiful use in that spot where we would have had an ugly, noisy use. What we wanted originally, and you remember this from the late 80s and early 90s, we wanted to have the police academy in the South Bronx on 153rd Street.
Right. Maybe I'm time warping here. This age
you
is
might
a
be.
problem.
It happens. You get to a certain
nice.
Very
nice. Don't go there, please.
But I think, look, it's a win for the city. Wherever we put the police academy, to have a new police academy, a state-of-the-art police academy that trains police officers, FBI agents, other federal agents, intelligence people, state police, all together, working in a coordinated effort to protect New York, because New York is obviously a target for global terrorism. So that web of security and safety that we rely on has to be tight, and we can't do it without a new police academy.
Okay. Hunts Point. Conflicts? What are the fights? Are there any fights remaining over Hunts Point, or is this going to happen and people are accepting it as it happens?
I'm glad to declare this peace in the valley.
Is there peace in the valley?
No, actually, Hunts Point has been an area of heavy industry, a lot of trash management, and a lot of toxic uses for a long time. The only point of contention that we still have, that we have the largest produce market, largest meat market. Now the fish market is there, and it's a screaming success. If you have an opportunity,
it should be a tourist destination. I remember the old fish market.
It will be.
Certainly was.
It is going to be far better than the old, and the fishmongers and the merchants there agree that the conditions are much better. I mean, I went recently to film a commercial, and the guys were hugging me and kissing me and saying, "Thank you for insisting and supporting this, even against our wishes."
Better. You felt better.
Yeah. So you know, it's like the vindication of leadership, really, because sometimes you have to take a very unpopular stance. You know, I have a friend who wrote a book on leadership, and he says that leadership is that place where the threshold where you disappoint your supporters to move them somewhere better.
Right.
And so where people are angry with you but understand that it's the right thing to do, and it may be an inconvenience. In this case, the fishmongers and the merchants were angry about leaving Manhattan when they arrived to this beautiful fish market, and you ought to go up there. I suggest you take CUNY TV, do a show on, do something, tell the world about this fish market. It's wonderful. And
more advertisements for the Bronx.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I'm shameless. And so we have the fish market. The one thing that this administration wants to build in Hunts Point is a jail.
Right.
And we refuse to accept that. We don't think it's, first of all, I question the assumptions on the numbers projected for the number of beds that we need for jail. For our city jails. We have about 6,000 vacant city jail beds. As a matter of fact, one of the daily papers did a story a couple of weeks ago that we were actually renting jail cells to Nassau County. Go figure. We're renting $150 a night. You can stay in a posh jail cell.
In the Bronx, come on. I mean, that could be
no,
business
Rikers.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So I think, look, the fact
These
that
could be luxury condos in Rikers.
Well, we're not going to close Rikers Island.
No,
we do need a city
I'm
jail
sorry.
system.
You started this. Go ahead.
But you know, it's not a bad waterfront community.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Come on. It's worth more than
seriously,
a jail.
I think
Go ahead.
we're going to resist the development of a jail in Hunts Point and continue to clean up the area there, continue to ensure that trucks are out of the residential streets. And there's a tremendous opportunity for taking the fish, produce, and meat and creating a retail destination for the region so that we don't have people leaving the 5 counties of New York City to go get good deals on food, and they can get fresh food right here in the Bronx and in a great location.
Yankee Stadium.
It's under construction. Yankee Stadium is a great success story for our city, our region, and certainly for the Bronx. We've been the host community to the Yankees since 1923, kind of a lopsided relationship. They didn't necessarily show us any love. That has changed. We entered the administration 5.5 years ago and said to George and Randy and the administration of the franchise, if you want to leave, hurry up. If you want to stay, let's talk. We talked. We crafted a deal. There's been probably about $250 million, $300 million spent on the stadium construction already. It's well underway. And close to $100 million of that money has been spent on local contractors.
Okay, that's
and
my
local
question.
workers.
Is there going to be this spin-off or trickle-down effect, which we're always promised but never get? We're going to get it.
That was the deal construct.
Okay.
Yeah, those were the terms.
Hip-hop museum?
You know that the Bronx is the birthplace of hip-hop, notwithstanding what Queens or Brooklyn might say.
Well, I'm a Queens guy, so it obviously started in Queens, but go ahead.
And I think that one of the things that we don't realize, and certainly my generation and beyond, we don't have this connection to the hip-hop phenomenon that the young people around the world have. You know, you go to any European city, you go to any city in Southeast Asia, in Central Asia, and in South America and Central America, all over the world, you see hip-hop culture, music, the expression. Why not capitalize on this phenomenon and add yet another element of tourism attraction to our city? I think this genre was a form of protest music like rock and roll was when it first was birthed, and everybody said the sky is falling, civilization will no longer be the same because rock and roll is going to destroy our morale.
And to a certain extent that was true.
And to a certain extent it did,
yes.
And there has been a certain element of hip-hop that has been very negative and very hateful and very destructive. But I think it has to be studied and it is a genre that has to be looked at and needs a place.
Okay.
I celebrate it. I don't celebrate the negative, but I think that we need to be rational about it and opportunistic about it for our city.
Okay, big boxes. You seem to stand on the opposite side of many of your colleagues and certainly labor in regard to big boxes.
I underscore seem. I think that there's a misunderstanding. Look, I had a big argument with Walmart. They've shown interest in coming into this market. Obviously, as of late, they're hurting. They actually have shrunk their plans, their expansion plans. Walmart is the largest retailer, the largest employer. They move the most product in our marketplace all over this country, but they also have a very bad record of relations with workers and host communities. I think that they can be a destructive force in many ways, and they could also be a constructive force if they change their corporate policy. So what I've said to labor and what I've said to Walmart is the same thing. This is not a sentimental journey for Adolfo Carrion. This is, if you are in an urban setting, there is a living wage and there is a package of benefits that workers need to be able to afford to live in our town. If that's going to happen, if you're going to do business in this town, you have to play by these rules.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Okay, let's move away from, even though I would love to stay on sort of policy and program, and let's get to politics. Let's talk about mayoral politics. Yes, right. Citywide politics. It's no secret that you're eyeing citywide office, and in some senses there's a parlor game out there among the wise guys and gals about which office you're running for. You were mentioned as a potential candidate in the state controller search. In April, on April 4th at Baruch, you were at a conference which we sponsored with the Drum Major Institute on the plight of the middle class and the policies that would retain the middle class. And in one of those panels, you were on one of those panels with Anthony Weiner, Congressman Weiner, who's obviously also made no secret about his wanting to run. I would just want us to look at this short clip, both for two things. One, sort of the Weiner Carrion styles and interaction, and also what it says about your guiding principles. So let's turn to that.
When I talked in 2005 about giving the middle class a tax cut and about asking those that make more than $1 million to pay a little bit more, I think people respond to that because it's something they could understand. It's finally someone was saying to them, we understand what you're going through.
When the politicians are at the altar of the middle class worshiping, as you suggest, and we approach this part of our audience and insult their intelligence by suggesting that a fractional lunch money income tax break is going to help them and qualitatively improve their prospects to stay or enter the middle class, I think we are at a very dangerous place. We do need to have the serious conversation with our consumer of politics and information and education and our consumer about their future, about serious investment, which I think this is the purpose of this event, serious investment, as you suggest, Congressman, as John Liu suggests, in housing, serious investment in education, as we now have the beginnings of with the CFE victory and our new governor's commitment. Serious take by the reins the healthcare system and own up to the fact that we need to fix it. And we need strong management, and I think that's what you suggest, that we have to have a user-friendly city. But to suggest to people, which I think it's pablum, I think it's like giving somebody a bonbon and saying, here, if I give you back, $50 a month, your life is going to get better. It's not.
Little testy, little mano a mano. I like to see it. Talk about your goals for the city and comment on this bonbon, the metaphor that you used in reference to Congressman Weiner's tax cut plans or taxing plans.
Well, Doug, let me say, first of all, I have great regard and respect for Congressman Weiner and anybody who goes into public service. It is a lonely journey often. It is a place of great responsibility and burden, and I take it very seriously. And you hear me joke, I don't like politics and I don't like politicians. And I think part of the reason is precisely what we were talking about there. If you tell people that you're going to qualitatively change their existence by giving them an infinitesimally small percentage change in their tax rate, you're really not telling them the entire truth. It's sort of a tease, and we used the word tease in that conversation that day, and then we joked about it
Right.
with John Liu.
Right.
Look, the fact is that we're in the serious business of building cities and giving people opportunity. And we have to be serious about this work in the sense that we have to stop thinking that we can trick or fool people most of the time so that we can simply get their votes.
It's a pretty cynical view of politics.
Well, you know, no, I think it's realistic. I think the American consumer of politics is tired of promises. They're tired of hearing that they're going to get something and then it's really smoke and mirrors. You know, for instance, we give people rebates. We announce we're going to give renters rebates or homeowners rebates. And when you actually do the math, it's simply a news story for a politician and not qualitatively changing somebody's prospects for the future, economically and otherwise. So I want to just be plain spoken with people. I'm a father of 4 kids. I'm paying a mortgage. We've made our life in this city. And we didn't make it with little tricky tax breaks. You know, this was hard work. And so what we need to do is we need to ensure good education, good sound housing, safe streets, a strong economy, the best social program being a job. Yes, there are too many taxes. We overburden businesses and we overburden families. And wherever we can reduce taxes without diminishing the services that we all rely on, everybody wants an ambulance there when they get hurt. Everybody wants a fire truck there when there's danger. Everybody wants a police officer on their block. But we're paying them $25,000 a year to start. So we have to be honest and serious and not just play little games.
Well, this sounds like the agenda of and the articulation of that agenda by a mayoral candidate. I mean, are you interested in the mayoralty?
You know, look, I've served the city as a member of the city council, as an urban planner, as a school teacher. I think my most important function in service to the city has been as a father of 4 kids and trying to raise them right, because I think that all of us are in this together. At some point in the future, I will decide whether I run for mayor or another office. I will be in leadership in this town as long as the people allow me to. I feel that leadership is something that you borrow from the public. They entrust you. They say, yes, Adolfo, we like not only the words that we hear you say, but we like your actions and we like your style, and you represent my family, my interests, who we are as Americans, who we are as New Yorkers. My hope is that as long as that is entrusted to me, that I will be a good steward of that responsibility.
So will you actively seek this? I mean, clearly,
absolutely.
It's really, I mean, it's important for us to understand who our potential leaders
Absolutely.
are and what they're saying. Why you? Why you?
You know what? The same reason that I went to the 61 neighborhoods in the Bronx and said, failure is not an option. Crime cannot continue the way it's going. A failing school system does not serve our interests. I'm concerned about the future prospects of our country. You know that besides serving as borough president, I am also the incoming president of a national organization that has 7,000 members called the National Association of Latino Elected Officials. I'm the vice president of the County Executives of America. We have 700 member counties across the United States. They all are concerned with some very basic things that we're concerned with here in New York.
So it's really more than a city agenda, it's a national agenda. Go ahead.
The failure or success of New York is really the failure or success of American cities and of our country, and really prospects for the future of the world, because we are a global city.
Thank you. You'll be back maybe as mayor 2010. If you win, I want first interview, January 1st.
You got it, Doug.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.